Hey everybody, welcome back for another reading recap video where I'm going to tell you about everything I read in November and everything that I plan to read in December. Now, it is currently December as I'm recording this. I think it's the 3rd or the 4th. I'm really not quite sure. But I love December because I love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. I really just love all these holidays that are kind of clustered together. It is my favorite time of the year. So I'm going to give myself, I'm only gonna put 5 or 6 books on my plans for December, even though they are pretty beefy books. But I'm only putting a handful of books on there because I want to leave myself plenty of time for holiday activities. We're gonna be pretty busy. But guys, I love decorating. I love shopping for presents. I like wrapping presents. I like baking. I love Christmas music and Christmas movies. So I really like to go all in on the experience during Christmas time. So I have a shorter stack of books planned for this month, but then as I'm looking over at them, they are like some beefy books. So I don't even know, maybe this what I have planned is too ambitious as it is. But first we're going to talk about November. And I actually read like 11 books in November. But before you freak out, some of them were quite short. I had a lot of audiobook time in November. I did a lot of traveling, plus work just worked out in a way that I was able to be plugged into my headphones almost all day for several days. And that makes a big difference with audiobooks. So let's go through what I read in November. The first one is, I'm not really counting this because I read about half of it in, what's the month before November? October. So this book took me 2 months to read. And I actually finished it on I think I started it on October 1st and I finished it on November 25th. So I spent almost 2 months reading this, and part of it's because it's just a massive, huge book. And I decided not to audio this one at all. And so I was reading this both on the Kindle app on my phone and in this physical brick copy right here. And it did take me the better part of 2 months. But I finished it and I'm well on my way to be starting Reaper's Gale, which, spoiler alert, I'm planning to read Reaper's Gale in December. But once again, I reminded myself that I really don't enjoy reading Malazan books when they're spread out like this. I was trying to just be like, oh, we can just audio all this other stuff that you're super excited about. And then Malazan, you can keep it for an eyes only read. And I just kept reading little chunks at a time and I just pushed it down the road. So I'm going to try Reaper's Gale in more of a focused fashion because even though of all the Malazan books, I actually liked this one quite a bit more than the others. And I can see stuff coming together. I'm still not really a fan. I don't think, like I said, I just don't think it's a series that I click with very well. But this one, I do see why people really enjoy it. And there were parts of it that I liked quite a bit. But I think reading it in the way I did, little tiny chunks at a time over the course of 2 months, just really affected my experience. So I'm not doing that again. I do not like taking 2 months to read a book. Like almost any book, I think if I strung it out that long, I would grow resentful towards it. So Reaper's Gale, I'm going to get that one lickety-split read and not drag it out like I did with Bone Hunters. Okay, so besides Bone Hunters, which was a 2-month read, the first thing I read was this Wayward Pines trilogy by Blake Crouch. Now, this was the month of Blake Crouch. Actually, so in September, I read Dark Matter, which was my first Blake Crouch book. And then this month I read 4 Blake Crouch books. So I'm really digging the Blake Crouch. But this is a trilogy, 3 books. They're all quite short. Not only are they physically short, but they are so fast-paced. They're 300-page books. They're so fast-paced, so action-packed, so mysterious and plot twisty and page-turny that they read fast. I did do some of this physically with my eyes, but for the most part, I did these, I think I did all 3 books in 4 days via audio. Like I said, I did access these books some, but I would say I read 98% of this on audio. And like I said, at work, this was the perfect type of story, the perfect type of setting for audioing while you're keeping busy doing other stuff. The story just tells itself. It is just smooth and perfect for audio. There were some people who weren't crazy about the audio. And throughout the first book, I thought it was just fine. But the more he went and the more characters that picked up and the more that the audiobook narrator maybe got comfortable with with the source material or something. I don't know. By the end, I really actually liked the audio performance by the narrator quite a bit. So, like, I don't want to spoil anybody, but don't be surprised if something from this ends up on my top 10 things I read in 2021, because I enjoyed the heck out of this. Like I said, I listened to all 3 of these in 4 days because I just couldn't stop. So major thumbs up with this Wayward Pines. Like I said, the first one's called Pines. I have this show tie-in cover. The next one is called Wayward. And then the last one is actually the thinnest. Like, this is probably not even 300 pages. Yeah, 278. This one's called The Last Town. But honestly, if you're looking for something that's a little Twilight Zone, a little Black Mirror, you know, not quite horror, not quite sci-fi or dystopian, but maybe like a little bit of all of that. So major recommendation. I absolutely loved that. That was very fun to read. The thing I read after that was 11/22/63, this big chunker from Stephen King. Again, do not be surprised if this book makes my top 10. I had high expectations for this because based on the premise and based on its reputation, I had very high expectations of enjoying it. And I was, right when I started, I was like, what if I don't like this? Like, I've been putting this off for months because I was wanting to wait for November to read it, like for no particular reason, just to be cute or whatever. But I was like, what if I've like built this up so much and I don't even end up liking it? I don't know why I was worried. It was just so good. I mean, a little bit of romance, a little bit of historical fiction, a little bit of time travel, and just tons of what makes Stephen King amazing. So I recommend this to anybody, but especially if you are familiar with some of the cornerstone Stephen King books. Like if you're a fan of It, then you're gonna like this. There's some little treats in there for you. So I don't know what to say, but this book is awesome. And if you haven't read it yet and you love Stephen King, like rush out and get it because you will not be disappointed. All right. I read Age of Myth, and this is book 1 of Legends of the First Empire. I always want to get this, what the series is called, Legends of the First Empire. I always want to call it like 50 other things because it's kind of a typical fantasy sounding series title. But anyway, I had a great time with this book. It was not at all what I expected it to be, but it was exactly what I didn't know I wanted. It is a prequel series to the Rhaenyra Revelations and Rhaenyra Chronicles, so it's definitely in that same world, and I thought I knew what I was getting. It's not what I thought, but it's, like I said, it's exactly what I wanted. And there are several of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 or 7 of these out. And I'm really excited to get to the rest of them. I don't have any plan for December because I'm trying to stay focused on like a goal in December. But I am, like, as soon as I have some like freed up room in my loose little schedule that I'm doing, I'm going to binge these, I think, because they are so good. And I say binge because it would be very fun to binge them, but honestly, they're the perfect books. All Michael J. Sullivan books are the perfect books to sneak in between stuff. Like if you're reading a bunch of heavy stuff, sneak in a Michael J. Sullivan, because yes, the story's connected, it's one big series, but they always feel comfortable to slip in because they just always sound good. So if you're ever in a slump or a rut, or if you're just like, man, I just finished this huge sci-fi book and I'm about to read this big heavy fantasy book, throw in Michael J. Sullivan because it just always hits right. I mentioned that this was the month of Blake Crouch. I also read Recursion. This was, again, it's very, very good. Like, I don't want to get into it because this has so many mysteries and, plot twists and stuff in it that I don't want to accidentally give something away. But this is, like a modern sci-fi book. It feels like a thriller movie, and it involves some takes on, time travel or, alternate dimensions that I never really thought of until this. But now that I have experienced it, it just is trippy. It makes your mind go all kinds of places. This one was a surprise. Not a surprise because I knew that I would read it eventually and I knew that I would like it. But Mike over at Mike's Book Review started reading it, and he was so happy with it and so excited that I could not wait one more second. So I ran out to Walmart and grabbed a copy of it. I had it on my Christmas wish list, and honestly, that's what I was hoping. I was hoping that I wasn't going to buy any more books and just wait and see what all I got for Christmas. But I took it off of my Amazon wish list and ran to Walmart and bought this because I did do the audio. I knew I wanted to do the audio because Mr. Dave Grohl himself narrates it. And I love that when an artist or an author will narrate their own books. The same way with the Michael McConaughey one that I liked so much earlier this year. So I knew I wanted to do audio, but I wanted the physical copy also because it has photographs inside. And hello, who would not want to own this? And on top of it, it's a very handsome book. It has nice texture to it. It's a great looking cover. But yeah, this was super good, you guys. Like I said, I wasn't planning on reading it. I snuck it in. I read that one in like one work shift. It wasn't that long, but also, like I said, the stars aligned that I was able to read it in like a nonstop fashion. But I think I read it over the course of 2 days, but less than 24 hours. Like I was engrossed in that. He's just an amazing storyteller. The book is called The Storyteller. And that's exactly right. Like he is such a great guy. He has had an interesting life. He has such a awesome outlook on the world and the way he approaches music and creating things and family. He's such an interesting person, and the way he delivers the stories in this book just totally was a home run for me. So major recommendation again. Okay, something else I read was The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This one, I didn't really know much about it going into it, but back when it was a new release, Nicholas Eames, he wrote this little blurb on the cover here. He had high praise for it and was just gushing over how good it was. And we know I love me some Nicholas Eames and Kings of the Wild, Bloody Rose. And so I thought, I'm willing to take a recommendation from him. So I bought the book, just kind of not knowing anything about it. It came in the mail and I'm like, love this cover. I think that is one of the coolest covers I've seen in a long time. And I like this underneath as well, kind of that old school fantasy font. I think that's very quaint. Anyway, I didn't really know much about it, but towards the end of the month, I had some time that I wanted to either read a standalone or a book one. And so I did a poll on I did it on YouTube, and I also put it on Discord. And I was like, here's some books I'm interested in reading. Which one should I start next? And this book did not win. I put Royal Assassin on there, Iron Gold, Black Tongue Thief. I put several things on there. But everything that won or ranked higher than this, I was planning to read from Scribd or listen to on audio from Scribd. Because I still had Bone Hunters going for my physical book. So I was like, I'm trying to focus on Bone Hunters, but I do need something on audio because I'm so addicted to audiobooks at this point that I can't imagine driving or doing laundry or doing dishes or any of those boring things without having an audiobook going. So I was like, I'm focusing on Bone Hunters, but I need one more book to have on audio. This book didn't win, but everything else that I had planned on reading that ranked way higher was on Scribd. But Scribd had me on like probation or something. I think I used way too much Scribd during the month, during that billing cycle. And after you've listened to so many books, they kind of like pull the reins back and make you pick from a lesser selection or just take a break till the next billing cycle. So I totally got my money's worth from Scribd last month. Don't worry, I'm not mad about it. But it made my poll kind of obsolete. So I was like, well, I guess I'll start Black Tongue Thief. So I started Black Tongue Thief. I got about that far into it. And then Mike and Mike's book reviews tempted me with this. This was a book I was not planning on reading right away. This was a major release this year. There was a lot of excitement around it. And I don't know if it was because I just kind of assumed, we got this like sexy guy on the front with no shirt and tattoos and long flowing hair. I just looked a little YA based on the cover. Now I know we are not supposed to judge books on the cover. But I did. So anyway, I had come to the point where I was like, I think I am going to read that, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it. So I put a hold on it through the library, and it was a 12-week wait. And I was like, that's no problem. I'm happy to wait for it. But then Mike decided to read it, and he got me and several others really hyped up with the, just read it with me, just read it with me, just read it with me. So I got the audiobook, I got on Audible, I used a credit for it. I put this book down and I picked this one up, and man, am I glad that I did. I'm thankful for the peer pressure. Guys, keep going with the peer pressure. I'll probably give in, and most of the time I'm usually happy that I did, because I love read-alongs, especially when it ends up being one of my favorite books that I read all year. So yes, Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff was so good, you guys. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't want this to go any longer than I've already dragging it out, but I will talk about this book more because I enjoyed it so much. Like, it was everything I want a vampire to be, plus more that I didn't know that I wanted from vampire books. It was funny, it was emotional, you know, I laughed, I cried, so many highs and lows. The story went places I never expected it to go. It definitely wasn't predictable. I love the storytelling format. I love the characters. I loved his writing style. Like, it was awesome. So I did read that whole book, and at the very, very last of the month, I came back and finished this one up. And I actually finished the last 30 pages on December 1st. So I don't know, do we count this as a November read? I don't know. I don't make the rules here. But all in all, this one, I ended up liking it quite a bit. I wouldn't make a comparison to Kings of the Wild. It's not the same type of book. But for those of you who liked Kings of the Wild, this is a safe comparison in the fact that, not a comparison, but a recommendation. If you like Kings of the Wild, I feel strongly that you'll like this book as well. Again, it's not the same type of story, but I think the same people who like Kings of the Wild will enjoy this book. It was funny, it was well paced, it had great characters, and the story is just not picking up. It will be a series, but I like where it left off. It kind of took a turn at the end that I didn't see coming, and all in all, I'm really happy with the adventure that this book started, and I'm happy and excited to read more. Okay, so here's what I have planned for December. Like I said, I really don't want to bog my schedule down too much because I want to leave plenty of wiggle room for, you know, holiday, Christmas movies in the evenings, hot cocoa and popcorn with the kids, going to look at Christmas lights, that kind of stuff. So I only have 6 books over here. And some of them are kind of beefy, but I think this should be pretty doable. The main thing I wanted to do is, I've been saying all year that I'm going to get to this, and I think the main reason I'm not overly like in a hurry for it is because we're still waiting on the 6th book, which I'm happy to do. I'm happy to wait. Take your time, Pierce Brown, write the book that you want us to read. But I'm not in a massive rush to read Iron Gold and Dark Age quite yet, because I figured all along that I would just wait until the 3rd one was announced and then I would read these. But I feel like I'm supposed to. Like, I keep feeling a lot of pressure. Like, you haven't read Iron Gold yet? Well, you haven't even read Dark Age. You DNF it. You don't even want to read it. And that's not true. Like, I loved Red Rising, the first 3 books, and I am excited to keep going. It just seems like whenever I have a slot open up that's for this size book, for some reason sci-fi just isn't really what's calling to me, or, you know, something dark and heavy isn't what I'm wanting, because sometimes it's exactly what I'm wanting, and that, like, oh, you're like, yes, it's perfect, but I haven't been in the mood when I had the time for it yet. So I'm hoping sometime in December that will happen, because I would like to get this and Dark Age completely in the old noggin so I can be caught up and, you know, talk about it. Because there's things that I think happen in here that, from what I've like gathered from the fandom, I know there's new POVs introduced, and like it gets darker and the story gets bigger, and I'm like, I do want to know what's going on, and more than anything, I want to be able to talk about it with everybody. Everyone knows I have the major FOMO, and I feel like I'm missing out by having not read these. So I would really like to read Iron Gold this month. And my biggest, besides Reaper's Gale, because I'm reading Reaper's Gale, which is the 7th Malazan book. So that's my highest priority, is to read Reaper's Gale, because it's part of a read-along, and like I said, I really don't want to get behind in it again, because that bums me out to be behind. So Reaper's Gale is my top priority. My second priority is this right here, Assassin's Quest. I read the first 2 books from the Farseer trilogy earlier this year, like January, February. And I absolutely loved them, and I just kept pushing this one off and pushing it off. Part of it is because I think some opinions were influencing me, but part of it's just because it's a huge book, and it always just seemed like, oh, I don't know if I have time to do that this month, or maybe next month. But this is my main priority, that I want to get this done, because I want to finish, like, who doesn't finish a whole trilogy in 12 months? So I need to finish this so I can, like, check it off the list and move on to more Robin Hobb. So I'm excited for that. What I'm reading right now is this, though, Godblind by Anna Stevens. I just started, I'm probably only maybe 30% into it, but I expect these to go pretty quick. A bunch of us are reading these in Mike's Discord, and everyone seems to be loving them. And I've been so busy with Christmas decorations. I know that sounds like something that should be done in an afternoon, but I've been doing it for days now. But I've only been able to like jump in and read a couple chapters at a time. This book does have those really short chapters that I love. Like I'm talking, it's a 400-page book and it has like 107 chapters, really short chapters. So I've been able to jump in and just kind of like take little nibbles and bites off at a time. And I like what I've read so far, but I really am ready to sit down and just like go all in for a couple hours on it because I'm not quite hooked yet. So that's the rest of the plan though, is that I'm going to read Reaper's Gale, Assassin's Quest, and Iron Gold, and then fill in with these. So I have Godblind, book 1. I believe this is called, Dark Soul, book 2. And then I got the wrong size of this. I am so annoyed. Look at this. Bloodchild, wrong size. It's still not a bad size. Like, it's bigger than a mass market. It's a nice size book. But it doesn't match my other one, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But anyway, these Godblind books by Anna Stevens, I've heard awesome things about them. I'm very intrigued by the story so far. And reading them with friends is very fun. I mean, a couple people read this in like a day or less and have already gone straight to the next one because they were so hooked by the first one. So I'm still waiting for it to hook me, but I'm not very far in yet. So I'm not really nervous that I won't get hooked. I just hasn't gripped me yet. But that's my plan for December, is to read those books that are high priority on my, finish them up before the year is over list, and then fill in as needed with these Godblind books. And if for some reason I have nothing but time left at the end of the month, I imagine I'll probably finish up with Dark Age. That would make me so happy to get Iron Gold and Dark Age been done this month. But I mean, this is another massive book. So between, like I said, Assassin's Quest and Reaper's Gale are already really big. So I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. I'm just going to read. But I would really, of all the months, like I get kind of silly and I start out with an idea of what I want to read, and then I just go squirrels all over the place and end up reading something totally different than what I planned. I would really like to not do that this month. So the hope is that I'll come back for this video next month, and when I tell you what I read in December, you'll already know everything because I stuck to exactly what I planned. Do you think I can do it? All right, I will talk to you guys soon. I have a bunch of videos planned. Things have been a little bit messy here, but I'm hoping to get back into a schedule, and I have a list of videos that I would love to create for you guys. So thanks for watching and thanks for coming back around. Please let me know what your favorite book in December is that you read, and what are you looking forward to in December. Everybody have the happiest of holidays and Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you soon.